What is CAPL DR? CAPL DR was created by me, Coach JV, when I saw a massive issue with people not understanding inflation. Very simple, right? You go to your financial advisor, they get you a 6 to 8%, but people aren't talking about inflation. I want you to think about this for just a moment. At 2 to 3%, about every 35 years, the value of your dollar gets cut in half. Since 1913, the dollar's collapsed 96 to 97%. This is not our grandparents' or our parents' economy. Since 1971, we detached from the gold standard, our values become worthless. Our dollars become worthless. The example that I give is my parents bought their house around 1973 for I think about $25,000. Their house now, the exact same house that they live in, same brick and mortar, same wood, same backyard, same house, is now worth $400,000. Now somebody say, oh, look at all that growth. But if they sold that house, they couldn't even move into the same neighborhood. Think about that. Or they would have to move in. That is not growth. That is a devaluation of their currency. Another thing you can look at is the wealth gap. Okay? The top 1% became much wealthier, and the working class is moving down to the working poor. So I started to think a little bit more strategically about this, and I asked myself, what is income? When I get paid, I'm getting paid in someone else's debt. So that goes into C, which is cash flow. After I read the book, Richest Man in Babylon and Cash Flow Quadrant, I started to think completely different. So the number one thing I worked to do was to create cash flow. Okay? Moving my income into things that create cash flow. What does that look like? So every time I get paid in income, okay, I work to create more income. An example is I take 10% of my income and I put it into cash generating dividends that make me money 24 hours a day while I sleep. Okay, the first thing I did was scale my businesses to create cash flow, and that took me a long time. It took me about 5 years. I think it was first 4 years to get my first 7-figure ecosystem, around 7 years to get my second, and it'll take me about 8 to get my third and our first 8-figure in year 9, right? So I've created a lot of cash flow from businesses, but I don't want to work until I die, right? Warren Buffett, you're going to work until you die unless you make money while you sleep. So what I do is I take my income and cash flow from my businesses and I buy dividends to create more cash flow. So that's an example of cash flow. So what I'm doing every single time I get paid, I'm not doing lifestyle spending, I'm creating cash flow. And if I want a new lifestyle, I make sure I have more cash flow. That makes sense? So then what we do is, what do we do with the cash flow? I'm not going to store it the US dollar that's inflationary and I become poor every single year. It's not that things are getting more expensive, is your dollar is becoming worth less. It's the example of my parents' house. Okay? So I take my cash flow and I put it into assets. Okay? I like to use assets that have fixed supplies. Now, why do I do that? Let me give you an example of this really quick. Okay? Here's an example. Bitcoin, over the last 10 years, has beat every single asset class. It's grown about 50% every single year. So there's an example right there of a fixed supply asset. So I'm moving my income into cash flow, creating more cash flow. I'm taking my cash flow, I'm buying fixed supply assets, things like Xrp, things like BTC, that appreciate over time. So as your dollar is going down, my dollar or my assets are going up. Okay? So then next, I was like, let's take it to a whole nother level, richest man in Babylon. So I mixed cash flow quadrant, richest man in Babylon. That's why I invented CAPL DR. Is next, I take profit, okay? I take profit off of my assets when they go up, and I move it into protection, okay? Not all of it. I take some of it, okay? I put some on the sideline. Sorry for my spelling here. I move it into protection, which is cash value life insurance. Okay, so now you see what I'm doing here? I'm creating cash flow. My cash flow is going into assets that profit over time. I put the profit into protection, which creates permanent life insurance, protects my principal, and it creates leverage. Now I can leverage against my cash value life insurance to do what? Low interest, to buy more cash flow, to buy more assets, creating a flywheel with CAPL DR. Now, DR is de-risk, de-risk, de-risk. Here's why you're getting wrecked in crypto. You're believing in price predictions, hopium, and you're rubbernecking it, watching it go up and go down. As it's going up and going down, I'm pulling profits, I'm securing, I'm leveraging, and I'm buying the red. So CAPL DR is our system that I built to beat inflation. So let's go through it again. Every time I get paid, I make more cash flow through dividends. Okay, I have my cash flowing businesses now, so maybe you start there, but right away you can start buying cash generating dividends. When my dividends pay me and my businesses pay me, I buy assets. When my assets profit, I stuff some into protection. When the markets come collapsing down, I use leverage. And guess what I do? I borrow at 5% and I buy more assets like BTC, Xrp that grow over time to pay off the leverage. That's CAPL DR. I created this system when I saw a massive problem with inflation. I created this system when I saw that they're just going to keep printing money in a low interest rate environment. And I created this system when I understood that you're either earning interest or you're paying it. There's no middle ground. Take the emotion out of it. You're paying the interest on things you can't afford to impress people you don't like, or you're the one earning interest on assets, okay, that the working class use. That's it, guys. So there's no emotion in this. So CAPL DR was created by me when I saw a massive problem in the financial system, being in the banking system, and finally getting tired of being broke, and finally getting tired of seeing my family suffer. So my family now has tons of cash flow coming in. And just to be transparent, right now we have about, from our businesses and combined, around $500,000 coming in cash flow. But I'm transmuting that cash flow into assets. We became multimillionaires in business and investing. And now I just keep the flywheel going. So I went from making nothing to $10,000 a month to $30,000 a month to now about, combined with all of our businesses and cash flow, around $500,000 a month. But I take that income and guess what I do? I replete the flywheel. Always be open and transparent with you guys. I'm not sharing with you what to invest in. I'm sharing with you how I do my investing. Right? You can give a man or woman a fish, they'll eat for a day. Give them a fishing pole, they'll eat for a lifetime. You give them CAPL DR, they'll build a legacy. I hope that helps. Warriors, rise!